and this honorable court. You may be seated.
Amen. Okay, we're about 5 minutes still. They're in the process of bringing the jury down. Are we dead? And I actually was off mic during that, so I remembered that. State, call your next witness, please.
Dennis McKenzie.
All right, come in, raise your right hand, please. Solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Be seated there, and I want you to state your name and spell first and last name for the benefit of the court reporter.
Dennis McKenzie, Dennis McKenzie.
All right, thank you. You may proceed.
We have heard your name twice in this trial. Okay?
Okay.
So let's start with April of 2011. What was your job? What was your business?
McKenzie Tree Service. I actually owned McKenzie Tree Service at the time, and Dana worked for me. He was working for me.
Did you have a lot of people working for you?
Had right at 100 employees. Yes.
100 employees?
Yes, sir.
Big operation.
Yes, sir.
It was your business?
It was, yes.
Did you know Dana?
I knew Dana and Karen both for a long time. And,
Just through work or socially too?
well, socially, I knew Karen when she started doing student teaching up Scotts Hill. I was actually a senior in high school, and she was up there doing her student teaching. She graduated from college, and then as we all got older and had kids, you know, our kids played on the same t-ball team together, and got to know them through that way. Of course, we all live in a small, tight community, you know, and then later on down the road, Dana got to working for me and done me a real good job.
When Holly went missing,
Yes, sir.
did you help searching?
I did, yes. Yes, us, myself, and several more employees did for several weeks there before finally had to let some of them go back to work. You know, they didn't want to go back to work, but some of us had to, and because we were just trying our best to help find, maybe put an end to what was a nightmare. So,
How much searching did you do?
if I don't mind mentioning, me and Brian probably was the two that stayed the most. I guess we was by ourselves a lot, probably 18 months, I guess.
That mean getting out in the woods?
Yes, we stayed in the woods about all the time, and creeks and the springs, and pretty much that's every weekend thing, and a lot of afternoons.
I want to ask you about one particular day. It's arranged by Warren Rain. It's arranged by Warren Rain.
And after Warren had talked to him, and
Where were y'all set up at?
we were set up behind the house in the woods out there. I think it's actually county property. I think we was on.
Were y'all hiding?
We was, yes.
Were you in those woods for a long time?
I was that morning, probably 3 to 4 hours, I'd say.
To watch
What's
Zach?
that? Yes, sir. See what his actions was after Warren had talked to him.
We've heard what Brian Young saw, so I'm not asking you what Brian Young saw.
Okay.
But what did you see once Warren Rainey left?
Once Warren Ray left, I seen Zach go from his house to this, I call it a garage or shop, kind of in the back side of his house. And it vacuumed for probably an hour and a half in a black truck. And after we observed that, Brian had found those gloves, if I'm allowed to say that, and he had told me he was going to go meet Warren.
Your Honor, to the hearsay.
All right, you can't say what someone told you.
Okay.
You can say what you observed.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'd seen Brian find the gloves, and he had come to me and told me he needed to take these to work.
I don't know what he's going to say, so I can't say.
So you understand, you just said that you saw Brian find the gloves or whatever.
Yeah, I seen Brian pick the gloves up. I was with
Then you started to say what he said or something. So
He
don't
told-
do that.
No,
don't
you
do
can't say
that.
what he told you.
Don't,
Okay.
don't do it. You understand?
Oh.
Okay. But did Brian leave at that point
He did, yes.
or start leaving?
Yeah, he left to go see Warren, if I can say that.
And what did you do then?
I stayed behind, and I observed and watched Zach. He was stayed in there another probably 10 or 15 minutes in the shop vacuuming. He came out of the shop, and the two mattresses on the kind of northeast end of the house was leaned up against the back of the house, and he picked up the water hose and went to rinsing off the mattresses, which he didn't stand there for a long time. It wasn't 15 or 20 minutes worth. It was probably about 5 minutes, just enough to wet down both mattresses pretty good. Then he laid down the water hose and went right back into the shop and went right back into vacuuming again.
Right back to vacuuming. Nothing else, Judge.
Cross.
Mr. McKenzie, I'm Jennifer Thompson. Now, you just now testified that Zach Adams pulled out did you say a water hose and began to wash these mattresses?
Yes, ma'am. Mitch
Hey.
spraying them off. He was
Pardon?
spraying them off.
Spraying them off,
Yes, ma'am.
okay. And now you gave a statement regarding this to the police in the past.
Yes.
Okay. Matter of fact, you spoke with do you remember speaking with Joshua Carter from the TBI?
Yes, I spoke to several. Yes.
And you gave a statement after Zachary Adams had been arrested in this case.
Correct.
Okay. And if I told you it was March 26, 2014 at 11:45 a.m., would that sound reasonable?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And you knew that Zach Adams at that point had been charged with the crime,
Yes, ma'am.
and you definitely wanted to help the Bobo family find the killer of Holly Bobo.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, it means it's important to you. Is that
Ye-
right?
Yes, it was. It's personal.
Okay, personal.
Yeah.
Now, when you gave that statement at the time, you specifically said that you saw Zach Adams pull out the vacuum and vacuum the mattresses that were outside, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So now you're saying that you remember that he pulled out a water hose and washed the mattresses.
He actually did both, to be honest with you.
Okay, so now you're saying that you left out the vacuum part?
I did, yes.
Okay, so now the way that you remember it is he vacuumed the mattresses and then he washed the mattresses off.
That's correct. Yes.
But that's a detail that you left out when you spoke to the police 3 years ago.
Right. It's been a long time, ma'am.
Okay. No further questions.
Done?
Nothing further.
No, I'm looking, all right.
I know you were, sorry.
Step down. You're free to go, or you can come back in the courtroom. Just don't discuss your testimony with anyone, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McKenzie. Next,
John Graves.
John.
Graves.
Raise your right hand, sir. Solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Be seated. State your name and spell first and last name for the benefit of the court reporter, please.
John Graves, JONGRAVES.
Okay, you can proceed.
Mr. Graves, I'm not asking for your address, but where do you live?
I live on Gibson Road.
And what county is that in, or what
That's
town?
Decatur County.
Is that close, near to Parsons in that area?
Yes, about probably 5 miles north.
Right. And did you grow up in that area?
I did.
You know a lot of people in the area?
Yes, ma'am.
Prior to April of 2011, did you know a family last name Bobo?
I did.
And how did you know them?
Well, Miss Karen was my 7th grade school teacher, actually.
Did you see her today in the courtroom back there?
Yes, I do.
And what about her husband? Did you know Dana?
I knew of Dana, yes.
Other than being your 7th grade teacher, were you, I guess, close friends or just
Just acquaintances, yes.
What about their children? Did you know
No,
Holly?
I did not.
Do you recall, what is your business?
Well, we're in the construction business in Parsons.
And that's Graves?
Graves and Graves Construction, yes, ma'am.
And is that a family business?
It is.
Grandfather, father, and now you?
That'd be correct, yes.
Is it fair to say that because you're in the construction business that you are very familiar with most of the roads in and around the area?
Well, yes, and living there as well, yes.
Do you recall April the 13th, 2011, when Holly Bobo went missing?
Yes, I do.
When you heard that news, did you immediately know or hear that she was the daughter of Dana and Karen?
Yes, ma'am.
Over the next several days, or actually that day and the next, did you become aware that there were people searching for Holly?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And how did you, explain to the jury, please, how you became aware of that?
Well, obviously, in a small town and in a setting like we live in Decatur County, you pretty well, when something tragic like this happens, you're aware of it. And actually, we knew that people were out looking for Holly, and of course, everybody wanted to do their part because it's like one of us.
Did you have some property or a home where searchers actually came to your property or home?
I did.
Before you go any further, was that the day of or the day after?
I think it's the day after.
So that would be April the 14th, that Thursday?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Tell the jury what happened.
Well, I got home that afternoon sometime around 5:30 or so. That's typically what time I got home. And when I got home, I noticed there's some guys that work for us that live just adjacent to my house, probably a couple hundred yards or so, and there was a big Suburban of people where they'd been, everybody was kind of going, checking the area, different barns and all that, and they'd been out to some of our barns that lay, real close proximity to the house. Well, I knew, adjacent on back behind, there were some sheds that we had that you couldn't access by vehicle just because it was a wet time of year. It was in April or whatever time it was wet and you couldn't do it by vehicle. So I went in the barn and got my four-wheeler out, and I said, well, I'll just, I'll check back here in some of our barns back in the back in case, something might be back there or something that you can't see and access by vehicle.
All right. Now, you said you lived on Gibson Road?
Yes, ma'am.
And for those who aren't familiar with where Gibson Road is, can you give us some landmarks or some indication of where that might be in
Well, we own property between Gibson Road, and being the Graves family owns property between Gibson Road and Gooch Road, and then to the west of that, Bible Hill Road kind of connects those two, so it makes kind of a U.
Okay, and how much property, how much land is encompassed in that U?
Well, it's somewhere around 1,000 acres or so.
All right, so you're on Gibson, and Bible Hill would be the bottom of the U, and Gooch would run parallel?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so these barns that you wanted to, did you just want to go look in there for yourself and make sure Holly wasn't in one of those barns that nobody had checked?
Yes, that was my thought, because I knew, I said, they're out, and I said, by some chance, albeit how remote it might be, somebody might have stashed her away in something that, nobody knows anything about. So here I tend to traipse through our farm and, I check these barns up here close, which they could see, and then I went back and checked one of the other barns, didn't see anything, and then there's a creek that goes along by some of the barns. I kind of looked, scanned down through there, just casually driving by, really not expecting to see anything or whatever. Went to a shed that kind of lays about halfway in between the two roads and checked it. Wasn't anything.
When you say between the two roads, you mean
Between Gibson and Gooch, yes, ma'am. And the whole time I'm kind of approaching, I'm getting closer to Gooch Road. I'm going away from Gibson and going towards Gooch Road.
At this point, are you off-road or?
I'm off-road the whole time. I'm pretty well off-road the whole time. So if you get on Gooch Road, we've got two cattle barns that are right across one another. And it's got gates, and I was just going to go out and check those two barns and then get on Gooch Road and then go back up to Bible Hill Road and just go by a road back around to my house. So I check those, check the sheds that's down in the bottom. I go up to the top of the hill where there's two barns across from one, check those, and everything was all clear. And so then I proceed to get on Gooch Road and going back west towards Bible Hill Road. And I'm going down through there, and there's a little creek about, I'd say 100, 150 yards back east of Bible Hill Road, back down the hill from it. There's a little creek crossing there, and as I was going by, I looked and I saw something, just casually. I'm just kind of looking, and I look, and in the stream I saw something that caught my eye, and I was like, "What was that?" Because it was something that didn't seem like it belonged. So I put my four-wheeler in reverse and backed up and just stopped. Of course, that it's narrow. I mean, it's almost about the width for if you had two trucks that made it to one of them, you have to get off the side of the road. I mean, if you got wide, you would never go. So I'm stopping here in the road, no traffic going through there because it's not really heavily used. And I look and I see something. I was like, "What is that?" Thinking to myself, not expecting to find anything, mind you. But just something looked out of place about it, and I was like, "Man, that looks like something new, or newer, or something that just gained your attention." So there's a little field, a small, 3 or 4 acre field just past that. So I went inside that field and stopped at the edge of the woods, and there was about 10 or 15, 25 feet so track of just scattered trees that you have to get from the field over to where this little creek, or it's a great big ditch really. And so I walked over there and I looked, and it was just best I remember, it was just a square looking, polka dotted, like a lunchbox or whatever. So I took a tree limb, the one that was hanging there, because it was about probably 8 or 9 feet deep where it was, and I took a limb and kind of raked it over to the side and kind of pulled it up, and then I got it, and I was like, "Oh, what in the world is this?" And so I opened it up and looked, and it had a sandwich inside of it and something else. And I remember thinking, I said, "Man, that's awful strange." So I zipped it back up, and when I flipped it over, it had an embroidered H on it, the best I remember. And then at that,
Hang on a second.
okay.
I'm going to pass forward what was previously marked as Exhibit 30. And ask if you recognize this.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this what you found there?
Yes, ma'am.
And you opened it up.
I opened it up, and
Did you say it was in the creek?
it was, yes.
Okay.
Yes, it was in the creek, and the way that creek flows is it made a little nook back to the left, and the way the flow of the water was, it carried it over, and it kind of got hung up on the side. So anyway,
Let me back up. So
Okay.
you fished it out with a stick out of the creek.
Yep.
All right, so you're on the
I'm on
ground.
that's right.
All right, so you open it up there on the ground. You see the sandwich and lunch.
Right.
Did you see the H?
I did, because when I picked it up, you couldn't see the H. That was kind of on the water side down, and I had to open it up from this side. And then when I opened it up and looked, and I was like, I thought, wait a minute, now this has got uneaten food in it. And then when I turned it over, I saw the H, and at that time, I kind of, something about this don't seem right. But anyway, I made a phone call because I couldn't remember, Holly's first name, because like I said, I didn't know. I knew Miss Bobo and them, but I didn't know their daughter. And I made a phone call. I said, what was the young lady's name? And whoever I talked to, the guy I talked to, he told me it was Holly. And I was like, well, I said, you need to get a hold of somebody. And we tried to get a hold of the sheriff and Henderson County Sheriff. I said, they come on out. I said, this may be nothing, or it may be something. And I said, I've handled it in the whole 9 yards at that time. So,
So after you made that phone call, did people come to you there
Yeah.
on the side off of the Gooch Road?
yes, ma'am.
All right, did you just put the lunchbox down? This lunchbox down on the ground there where you were?
Yeah, and I said it was close to the edge of the road. It was actually, we got it over close to the road, so I'd moved it some, probably, before I'd walked out of the woods, and I just set it down right there by the edge of the ditch.
So the jury understands you didn't try and put it back in the creek where you had
No,
found
ma'am.
it?
No, ma'am.
All right. And did they come out there?
I did.
Were you present? Do you know whether they tried to photograph the area?
I believe they did try to photograph the area, but, all the particulars I can't remember for sure.
I guess my question is, the photographs weren't taken with the lunchbox back in the creek?
That's correct.
They were
No,
taken-
the photographs were taken in it, and I made mention of that too. I said, now this is not exactly where I found it. I found it in the creek over here, 30 yards, in the ditch.
I'm going to pass forward the photograph and ask, and it's dark, because this was getting dark time.
Yeah.
The previous exhibit.
No, sir.
Okay.
Do you recognize the area and what's portrayed in that photograph?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is that?
That's the lunchbox.
And is that where you put it, where you set it back down?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I'm going to put it on the overhead. Can you see the creek that you described?
No.
Because it's too dark.
That's right.
All right. Your Honor, can I have this marked as the next numbered
The
exhibit?
exhibit 66. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Here's the laser pointer.
Okay.
If you can show the jury where this creek is, I know you were,
Yeah. So the roadside ditch is here, and the road is right here. This is just adjacent. Okay.
You can step around. Is this an aerial photograph?
it's
It's
not,
just-
it's
okay.
taken from,
Yeah, just from the
Okay.
side of the road.
okay, so for purposes of describing, when you said the road is right here, are you talking, as we look at this exhibit, is it?
Yeah, it's just
at
like-
the bottom of the picture?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the road be running like this, and the little road ditch sitting, between where the picture was taken and the
Right.
purse.
Gotcha.
And then the creek ditch, the creek runs, perpendicular to the road.
All right, so if you're looking at this picture as the jury all is, just use your pointer to show us the
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah, the creek would be running this way. The road is running this way.
All right, so the creek would be running from the bottom to the top
That's right.
area.
Yes, ma'am.
All right,
This way. Road's running this way.
gotcha. Thank you. And until today, is that the last time that you've seen?
Yes, ma'am.
lunchbox?
Yes.
I don't have anything to think
All right, cross-examination.
Mr. Graves, I'm Jennifer Thompson. So you testified that you saw the lunchbox and you picked it up, you said?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, first you used a stick to scoop it out of the water?
That's right, because it's too deep for me just to reach down and grab.
Okay. And by too deep, you don't mean that the water was too deep, you mean this?
The bank.
The bank
bank,
of the
yes,
creek
ma'am.
was too deep. So when you scooped it out of the water, you picked up the lunchbox.
Mhm.
You opened it up,
I did.
and you looked to see what was inside of it.
Right.
Okay. Then, after that, you set it back down on the bank.
That's right. Well, I walked out back out to the edge of the road, yes.
Okay. And you have a clear memory of that today.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And if I told you that this occurred on April the 14th at 7:30 p.m., would that sound right to you?
Yes, ma'am.
It was getting dark. I mean, you can tell by the pictures that it's
Right.
getting dark or dark.
Okay.
And you called did you call the TBI and they came right away?
Actually, I think I called a friend and called one of the sheriff departments. I can't remember if it was Decatur County or Henderson County, one of the sheriff departments. But yes, they did come out.
Okay. And then you spoke at that time to Special Agent Terry Dykus, who was with the TBI, isn't that right?
That sounds accurate, yes.
He interviewed you on the scene right there, didn't he?
Correct.
And he was taking notes as he spoke to you, wasn't he?
I assume.
Okay. And you were being cooperative with him.
Yes.
Okay, so when you talked to him, you specifically told him that you had looked back and to the left as you were
That's right.
driving, and saw something in the creek. It just caught your eye.
Yes.
Okay. And then you told him you pulled up closer and you used a post to dip it out of the creek.
Yeah.
And then you specifically told him you never touched the lunchbox.
No.
You told him at the time.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. First of all, ask him the question instead of just reading a statement. I let it go on, but that's improper.
She can ask if he made that statement. She cannot say, you never told him. Ask him if he made the statement, then you can use the statement if you feel appropriate for impeachment purposes.
Okay, so you never told, you told him you did not touch the lunchbox, didn't you?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So if he's put it in his report that you said you did not touch the lunchbox, the agent is wrong?
I don't have any recollection of that, because I did specifically touch the lunchbox. There was no ifs, ands, or nowheres about that.
Okay, and that's how you remember it today?
Yes.
Your son told people he had Holly
Your Honor,
Bobo locked up.
objection.
Wait,
I'm not using it for the truth, Your Honor. This is not,
Your son told people?
your son told people?
Your
Even
son.
your son said anything, Your Honor. We got John Graves here. Question, anything that John Graves told somebody?
Okay, if
Fair
you want to
game.
call the son, you can call the son.
Your Honor, I'm not using it for to prove the truth. It's a hearsay statement, but it meets an exception in that it's something that his son said at the time. And he's very aware of it, Your Honor, because he went to
Take the
school.
jury out. From both sides.
Okay, so,
Where are you going?
well, what I'm trying to show is that people and different,
No problem with the witness being present while we're discussing this.
no, Your Honor,
Okay.
but I was trying to show that
He'll follow the court's ruling, whatever I instruct.
different people who, the reason I would want to get it in through him and not the son was only in second grade at the time he said it, so he may or may not have been a competent witness to testify.
Then that's all the more reason it probably shouldn't come in.
But I'm just trying to show that there were people in the community saying things that were not true. But there was
Ostensibly, what did the son say? I have
He
no.
said that his uncle had Holly Bobo locked up at home, and they were trying to convince him to let her
And
loose.
what exception to hearsay is this?
I'm just trying to show what effect it had on him, not that it was true. The family didn't have Holly Bobo locked up. It was not a true statement.
It lacks any indicia of reliability. We're not going there. Bring the jury in.
Before we do that, can I do an offer of proof? Just
All right, jury back out. All right. We'll answer questions. The jury's going to remain out, okay?
Okay.
At some point, were you called on by an investigator in this case regarding some statements that your son had made while playing?
I'll be honest with you, I can't recall.
Okay. Do you recall that in December of 2011, Terry Dykes again came to meet with you regarding your son Jeb?
Terry could have come by. I mean, it's possible.
Do you recall that there was a day when the kids were out of school due to weather and they had, your son had found a glove somewhere and they were going around trying to decide who took Holly Bobo?
I'm sorry, I don't understand. The kids found a glove and the kids were going around? I mean, I just don't understand the question.
Yes, the kids found a glove while they were out of school because of weather, and they were playing a little game where they were trying to decide who took Holly Bobo. You remember that, don't you?
Seemed like I do remember something about a glove at our office, and that, yes.
A glove at your office, not.
Not anywhere close to the side. I mean, it's a worker's glove that was laying on the ground. Like we have nails and hammers
So they
and,
were playing.
right.
They were playing a game, yes.
Let her ask the question.
Okay.
They were playing a game, weren't they?
Same, yes.
And at some point, they were pretending like they were trying to find out who took Holly Bobo, weren't they?
Same, yes.
Okay. And at some point, your son just made a little plain statement about the fact that his uncle had Holly Bobo locked up.
Okay, at this point, I'm gonna just interject. Does he know, was he present when this statement was made? Otherwise, it's asking
Were you
to
present when any
speculate.
such statement was made?
No.
Okay.
But at some point, it all came to your attention and you talked to your son about it, didn't you?
Really, to be honest with you, I can't recall.
So something as big as everybody or agents coming to your house to talk to you about this doesn't, you have no memory of this at this point?
No.
Okay, no further questions.
All right. How old was your son approximately at the time that this so-called statement that you
Well,
didn't hear was made?
He's 12 years old now, so, as of June, so whatever, how many every year is that? Yeah, 5.
5 years old?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm even more certain that this is absolutely inappropriate. There's no indicia of reliability. A 5-year-old to start with is presumed not competent to testify unless the court qualifies. And some statement made during a childhood game is miles away from relevance as far as this case. So I'm even more certain that this is not appropriate.
The reason I was wanting to offer it, Your Honor, is not because I think it's reliable or I was trying to show that this happened. What I was trying to show was that the community was very, very sensitive at the time. So anytime anybody said anything about Holly Bobo or somebody possibly having Holly Bobo, everybody overreacted.
A 5-year-old game has no place. Okay?
Right, but people were overreacting in the community at the time. If he doesn't remember it, then
We've
it's
already
not
had
relevant.
legions of testimony concerning the extent of involvement in the community, and that is precisely the reasons that I granted change of venue, is the emotional uproar
Yes.
state in Decatur County for a period. The last witness said he searched for 18 months. That's how deep the involvement is. So whether a 5-year-old was saying something in a game is totally irrelevant. Let's bring our jury back in. Rules are set.
I have no further questions.
All right, let me say my mic is off to make sure. I'm loud anyway, I know that, and I don't want to take a chance on a jury hearing something they shouldn't, so my mic is off and it won't be on unless someone feels it needs to be. But I think I told you folks before, my first grade teacher told me that my voice carried, and she wasn't being nice when she told me that, okay? All right, no further questions
further
over here.
questions.
Anything else over here?
Yes. Ms. Thompson. Ms. Thompson asked you a moment ago about the road and the fact that you were driving down Gooch Road and looking back to your left or to your right.
Left, yes.
And you had described for the jury, this is a pretty narrow road.
Correct, yes.
Let me pass forward a photograph and ask if you can identify that, please.
Yes, ma'am.
And what is that?
It's the intersection of Gooch Road and Horny Head Creek Road.
That Gooch Road, the road that runs parallel with your road.
Yes, ma'am.
Right, Your Honor, ask this be marked as the next number.
All right, be 67. That's Gooch and what?
Horny Head Creek Road.
One more time.
Horny Head Creek Road?
Horny Head.
Yes.
Only been the first time I've heard the name of that road.
And then permission to publish, Your Honor.
You may.
I'm going to hand you the laser pointer again. Is that narrow, winding road indicative of what you were driving down on your four-wheeler?
Yes, ma'am.
And does that intersection show the area, or is the area where you actually found the lunchbox out of,
Well, it's not in view.
right?
Yes.
Can you show the jury which way it would be where this creek is?
Well, this is, Honey Creek would be back.
So in other words, the road, you're looking at it line zone around, and it would be,
That's right, it'd be, this is the intersection of Gooch Road and Horny Head, so
Right.
it'd be back down Gooch Road.
okay, use your pointer to show the direction of travel. Were you coming towards the intersection, or were you?
Yes, I'd be coming towards the
Okay.
intersection.
So the area where you found it was before you got to this point?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. I don't have anything further.
Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. Your dad was Danny.
Yes, sir.
I knew. You're free to go. Please don't discuss your testimony. You can either come back to the courtroom or you're free to go as you wish. Call your next.
Gerald Stevens.
Raise your right hand, please. Solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Have a seat, state your name and spell first and last for the court reporters.
My name is Gerald Stevens, Geraldstepheens.
Thank you. You proceed. You say V or PH?
PH, sir.
All right, thank you.
Would you tell the jury, I guess, a little bit about yourself, such as where you live and what you do for a living?
I live in an adjacent county, Henderson County, outside of Natchez Trace Park. Me and my father there run a farming operation. We row crop as well as run quite a few cattle.
And, I'm sorry, I'm going to pass some pictures to the defense, some different pictures. And as a result of, you said you run cattle and have quite a bit of property, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And does your property, does your work include an area, I guess, in Parsons? Martin, Holiday, that area?
Yes, ma'am. We farm in 3 counties, Henderson County, Benton County, as well as Decatur County. So we have property that we either own or rent in various locations. Most of our cattle are run in Decatur County, in the northern part of the county, in what I call the Yellow Springs area. So,
I was going to ask you that. Yellow Springs is actually a road, is that correct?
yes, ma'am. Yellow Springs is known as a church and a community there with an adjacent road that runs through there by that church.
And is it actually sort of run alongside 40?
Not right alongside 40. It runs into another road that does, but it's not very far from I-40. It's on the south side of I-40.
All right. Because you have business dealings in 3 different counties, do you know a family by the name of the Bobos?
Yes, ma'am. I have came to know that family.
All right. Before April 13th, 2011, did you know them?
No, ma'am.
Did you nevertheless become aware that their daughter Holly had been reported as missing?
Yes, ma'am. I did become aware of that through a phone call from my sister, who also lives in Decatur County. She called that morning and notified me and my family.
And when you heard that she had become missing, did you also become aware that there were searches going on all around?
Not at that very moment. I was not aware.
I didn't mean at that moment. I meant after, like in the coming days.
Yes, ma'am. We on one of the farms we were working, we saw helicopters and other people were traveling up and down the road, stopping and actually checking even some of our home property there in Henderson County. Yes, ma'am.
And was that fine with you that they looked at your property?
Absolutely. We not only supported that, but we then began looking ourselves.
And when you say they were checking your property, do you mean like sheds and barns and structures that were on different?
Yes, ma'am. They came and checked barns that we have that are open, that are not being used, as well as our main shop, our main area there where my parents live. Yes, ma'am.
At some point, did you, or on a particular day, did you decide that you yourself would search?
Yes, ma'am.
And if you'll describe for the jury why you picked that particular day and how that came about.
Well, we were busy in the field spraying on Wednesday and Thursday.
Of the week it happened?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And Thursday night it rained, so we were not able to go back and spray. I actually had 2 guys spraying in the Yellow Springs area. So everybody was back at the shop then, and we were doing cattle work and shop work Friday because of the rain. And I made a venture myself to head out and not necessarily start looking, just start kind of observing, just trying to put together in my mind, if me and my guys could be of any help.
And you had this day available because you'd basically been rained out.
That's correct. That was on Friday.
So this is the Friday after she went missing on Wednesday.
Yes, ma'am.
So what area did you decide to look or to drive?
Well, I drove toward Parsons, and that's when I identified a road to my left as I was traveling toward Bible Hill and Parsons as Gooch Road with a tremendous amount of law enforcement lights and activity. Seems that the road was either blocked or almost blocked off. I then proceeded to Parsons and circled around to try to orient where the Bobo location was. I'd never been to their house, and other than as a small child, had never even been by that house. And at the driveway of their house, there were law enforcement there. Someone who I knew personally was coming out of the driveway, and so immediately I stopped, and me and that person had a conversation.
Right. I'm not asking, in fact, you can't tell the jury what the other individual said, but did you inquire about or determine that you were going to go in a particular area to look?
Yes, ma'am, and that person identified what had been found to me on Gooch Road, and once I obtained that information, momentarily I left, because in my mind, because I'm real familiar with the north part of the county, because our cattle being there, me or my guys are in the north part every day, and in my mind, if something was found on Gooch Road, somebody was going north, and in my mind, going toward the interstate, because that would be a back road to get to the north part of the county, and in my mind, to the interstate.
And so with that information, understanding about the roads, you set off towards Gooch Road?
I did not travel on Gooch Road because of the law enforcement. I bypassed Gooch Road, picked up the road just north of there, and started traveling maybe 15 miles an hour, maybe 20, really slow, just strictly trying to observe. Because in the news media, I guess my wife had made me
Okay. You can't say what you heard on the news?
Okay.
Okay. Were you looking for a particular color? Were you looking for a particular thing?
Yes, ma'am. In my mind, I was looking for anything that looked really odd or might be of the color pink.
Okay. So you didn't get out of your car, you just drove?
I drove relatively slow on as many as 5 or 6 different roads.
Right. So at any point during your search, was this in the morning or afternoon?
It would have been close to lunch. It would have been somewhere between 10:30 and 11 o'clock when I started that.
All right. And at any point, did you see anything?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you explain that to the jury, please?
I was traveling just south of Yellow Springs Church in the Yellow Springs community. I just came off of Fred Jr. Inman Road, traveling then what would be north, and going really slow there. Something appeared to be of the color pink on the right side of the road. So I immediately stopped, and it was a garment that was pink in color.
All right, what garment was it?
It was a pair of pink panties.
Okay. So you saw something pink, you stopped, you jumped your car and got out of your car at that point?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And what did you do when you walked over and saw what it was?
I immediately called the sheriff's office in Decatur County, and they either put me through or gave me another number to call the headquarters, which was at that time at the fairgrounds, the headquarters for the, I guess, the coordination for the search for this girl. And the detective that they put me on the phone with was Detective Ricky Inman. He asked...
Again, well, if he asked you a question, such as where you were and that kind of thing, you have
Yes.
to answer out loud.
Yes, he
Okay.
did ask me where I was, and he asked me what I had.
All right, and I'm assuming you responded.
I responded, but I did not disclose the item. Over a cell phone, I didn't think that that'd be proper.
All right, so did somebody come out there from law enforcement?
Yes, ma'am. Ricky Inman, as well as another deputy, I do not know who that was, did come out upon seeing what that was and the location. He immediately made a phone call.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there. Oh, excuse me, let's drop the paper. I'm going to stop you there and pass forward 2 photographs and ask if you to look at those, please, and when you're finished, tell me.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recognize what's in both of those photographs?
Yes, ma'am.
What's in the first one?
In the first photograph is the pair of pink panties.
Your Honor, I ask that be marked as the next numbered exhibit.
Exhibit 68.
And what's in the next one?
The next one is the location of which that garment was located when I first saw it and found it.
All right, is it actually shown in this picture, or does this picture just give you landmarks so that you know approximately where in the road it was?
This picture actually is the landmark of where it was. The actual location is not contained in this picture.
All right. Your Honor, I ask that the next be marked as the next numbered
All right,
exhibit.
the 68.
69.
Whoops, beg your pardon. Can't read my writing.
We can put the first one,
Okay.
the pink
You-
panties.
Publish. Go ahead and kill our lights, please.
All right. What is the jury looking at?
Talk slow, they're killing the lights. Where we can see better. Okay.
What is the jury looking at?
The jury is looking at the blacktop road adjacent to the grass area on what would be the right side of the road, of which I saw pink panties.
All right, and when you saw them, were they actually on the blacktop, or were they in the grassy area?
They were just barely into the grassy area, but not on the blacktop.
Okay, did you touch them?
No, ma'am, I did not touch them.
So you just called law enforcement?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, can I see the next picture, please?
Be 69.
69. And what road is this, please?
This is Yellow Springs Road.
All right, and I believe a few moments ago, I asked you the question about whether or not the area that you found the panties was actually displayed in the photograph, and you said it was not, correct?
That's correct.
Can you show the jury using the laser pointer where they were or what direction they were?
Can I also say I was proceeding from the south and heading this direction, which is north, and just a small amount north of this puddle. This area here is obviously for the mail carrier. Just after you proceed north away from the mail carrier route, there is where they were located, just a few more feet north of that puddle there.
All right. Okay, let me keep asking you some questions, and we can raise the lights again, please.
Okay, lights up.
Did you remain there on the scene until law enforcement got there?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you said that first the sheriff's department came and then they called other law enforcement, is that correct?
That's correct.
And what agency responded?
After the sheriff's detective was there, he told me that he had called TBI.
Okay, and did TBI come?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember the agent that appeared?
The agent that appeared was Agent Brent Booth with the TBI.
Okay, and once Brent Booth got there, did you ever leave that spot, or did you walk up and down the road? What'd you do?
After Brent Booth was there, he made a phone call for I assume other agents, and then while waiting, me and Brent discussed, I guess, what to do or the time frame. Obviously, he was not asking me what to do. I was asking him, and I suggested to him that I would take a walk up the road, just looking around as long as he was there. And he said he was staying there until someone else got there.
All right, and do you remember a time, I think last June, maybe, when you were kind enough to meet me and look at some photographs?
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, let me pass forward one and ask if you recognize this particular photograph.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and what is that a picture of?
This is a picture of the exact location of where the pink panties were. It's a picture taken from the south, looking back toward the north, of which I would have walked looking alongside the road.
All right, and there's some markings on it. I'm not going to ask you what they are yet, but who placed the handwritten marks there on the picture?
I myself, Gerald Stevens, placed those markings on the picture.
All right, I'm going to ask that be.
Pardon, and this honorable court, you may be seated.
Amen. Okay, we're about 5 minutes till. They're in the process of bringing the jury down. Are we dead?
Street?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that the area that you're talking about?
That is the area, and it's just around the curve here, and that's the area that I circled, and these are my initials.
All right, and you said you located what when you got that far?
Off in the grass, approximately 4 to 5 feet from the blacktop road, appeared to be a paper wad, wadded up.
Okay. And what did you do with the paper wad?
I took out my knife and picked it up so that I didn't touch it, having no idea if it was of any importance, and I took it back to where Agent Booth was located in the roadway at this area. He was still here holding on to this area.
And that piece of paper that's now displayed in the roadway, is that the piece of paper? Is that where you put it down? Or whether...
When the photograph was taken, that may be after Agent Booth opened it up.
Right.
I was in this area when Agent Booth opened up the paper. I did not open the paper up.
Okay, let me pass forward another photograph and ask if you recognize.
Yes, ma'am. That's the paper that when Agent Booth unfolded it. That's exactly what I saw in the paper.
And there appears to be a knife in the photograph as well. Whose knife is that?
It's not my knife, ma'am.
That's not the knife you carried back.
No, ma'am. That is not my knife.
Right. But you were there when he unfolded it.
Yes, ma'am.
Ask that be marked as the next numbered exhibit.
That'd be 71.
And then we can put that on the overhead, please. And is that the piece of paper that was unfolded in your presence?
Yes, ma'am, and it is. And The first and most memorable thing that I saw was the name and address of the person, Holly Bobo, on the top left corner of the paper.
I want to pass you item of evidence. Ask you to take out the piece of paper in there, and don't display it to the jury yet, but just look at it. And do you recognize that?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is that?
Appears to be the paper of which was unfolded.
Is it titled the same? Instructor 1 sent this.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, ask that be marked as the next numbered exhibit.
Exhibit 72. Are you through publishing your photo?
I'm fixing to publish this.
Okay.
And you indicated that when you found it, it was wadded up, and having had this piece of paper in your hand a few minutes ago, does it appear to you to have been wadded up?
Yes, ma'am. The paper that we're looking at there that I just took a look at appears to have been wadded up. And when I picked up the wad of paper, there was no way to identify anything about it related to a person or where it came from at all.
I'm going to ask that the photograph of the road with the mailbox be put back on the overhead. I don't remember which exhibit. 69 be put back. I'm using my pointer to point at the two mailboxes that are there in view. Do you know who lives here?
In that drive, I've met the people numerous occasions, but I do not know the name of the people in that particular drive.
Do you know who lives back here?
Are you pointing to the next drive down the road?
I am.
Yes, ma'am.
Who?
I did not know at the time, but it became known to me that that was
He can say if he knows.
person who lived in that mobile home was Shane Austin.
Now, is it fair to say that that after discovering, and you can turn the light out now so it doesn't bother people when we raise the lights,
Right.
in the weeks and months that followed your discovery of that piece of paper with Holly's name on it, did you continue to be interested and try to assist in the investigation into the location of Holly?
Yes, ma'am. Not only myself, but my family as well as the people who worked with us on our farming operation did.
And you indicated earlier that you didn't know the Bobos before, but came to know them during the course of the investigation. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
You talked to law enforcement when they wanted to talk to you?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Gave them information, whether it turned out useful or not, if you thought they needed to know it?
If I saw anything that appeared to be odd of any nature in the coming weeks and months, yes, ma'am, I made a phone call to law enforcement.
I don't have anything else, Your Honor. Thank you.
Cross.
No cross-examination,
All right. Step down. You're free to go. Please don't discuss your testimony with anyone. Okay. And you can come back in the courtroom if you'd like to, or you're free to go. Call your next.
Suzanne Pratt.
right hand, please. Solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Be seated. State your name and spell first and last for the benefit of the court reporter.
Emily Suzanne Pratt, EMILY PRATT.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yeah, I was gonna, what happened to our little box?
I'll get a box.
It's right here. If we're done with this, it kind of,
We are for a few minutes.
sorry, it kind of blinds the witness when they come in.
Is
I
that
thought
better?
her hair was blue, actually, for a minute.
Oh, no.
Let the record reflect it's not blue. All right, proceed.
Ms. Pratt, you told me you were nervous. Are you still nervous?
Sure.
Okay. I'm going to ask that you speak up because you're soft-spoken. The jurors on this end of the box need to hear what you have to say, okay? So direct your answers to them,
Okay.
all right? Let's hear you say yes so they can hear you.
Yes.
There you go. Where do you live? Not asking for your address, but what area do you live in?
Parsons, Tennessee, north of North Decatur County.
All right, how long have you lived there?
Since I was in high school, 1980.
Sorry?
1980.
Okay, you want to speak up?
1980.
Okay. You're married and have a family?
I am.
Do you know the Bobo family?
I do.
How do you know the Bobos?
I've always known them. My husband is related to them,
Related to whom?
to Dana.
Okay. And who is Jeremy Pratt?
Jeremy's my son.
All right, and Jeremy Pratt, at least in 2011, was law enforcement, is that correct?
He was a deputy for the county. Mhm.
Do you know Holly Bobo?
I do.
How long did you know Holly?
I've always known Holly.
Did you say that her whole life?
Her whole life.
Okay.
I've known her because I've known the Bobos, and we went to church together. We ended up in school together, in nursing school.
And I'm going to ask you about that. Were you in school with her when she went to Jack State for the year, or when she started going actually in the nursing program?
No, we entered the LPN program together.
Is that a large or a small, relatively small class?
Relatively small class,
How many?
20-ish.
And was it a rigorous program?
Very.
Did you guys have study groups and whatnot?
We did,
Was Holly?
and she and I were in the same study group.
What about clinicals, where you'd actually go out to other facilities? And
Same clinical group. We were together all the time.
that was my next question. Because you were in the same study group, you were in the same nursing program, and in the same clinical group, how much time did you spend with Holly?
We were together all the time.
And the two of you, there's a difference in your ages, correct?
There is.
And did that interfere at all with your friendship, or did you have sort of a surrogate mother-daughter sort of thing?
None, because
None what?
I loved her as a she was just like one of my own kids. We were classmates, and just really close, you know.
Do you remember the day that you and everyone else heard that Holly was gone?
Yes, very well.
Do you remember where you were when you heard that?
In class, we just completed a test.
Okay, so I'm going to draw attention to that morning of April the 13th. That was a Wednesday, correct?
Yes,
And you said something about a test. You had a test that morning?
we did.
What time were you and Holly and the rest supposed to be at school?
We were supposed to be there at 8 o'clock, and we started our testing promptly after that. And we waited, I don't remember how long, but we waited a few minutes because she was late, and she was never late. So she didn't come, so we went ahead and started the
Was
test.
that a pretty big deal for somebody not to show up for a test?
It was, that's why we waited. Mhm.
And at some point, the instructor went ahead and started?
Yes,
Did you complete your test?
we did.
Was Holly there when you completed your test?
No,
Did you learn something after that?
we did. she waited until everybody turned in their papers, and then she told us what she had learned.
And when you say she, who was
The
it?
instructor, I'm sorry.
And when the instructor gave you that information, what did you do?
I left and went to the area of her home.
Did you actually go to her home?
Not to her home, we couldn't go that close, but we, some of the other students and I began walking the road. I'm not sure, I don't remember the name of the road, but in that area surrounding her home.
Were you just walking to take a walk, or were you walking to look for Holly?
We were looking for anything that we thought, just anything that we might see.
From April the 13th forward, did you continue to try and help?
Every day.
And when you say every day, tell the jury what you were doing every day.
In the woods, every day. Just somewhere,
yourself
every
or
day.
groups?
Sometimes by myself and sometimes with a group.
I want to jump forward a couple of weeks. Do you remember when Easter was?
Yes.
Easter Sunday was in
Yes,
2011?
yes, I do.
Do you remember the day of the
Yes, I remember that day.
month? Okay, what day was it?
I don't remember the date, but I just remember going to church and someone announcing that we needed to go search that day.
Okay. When you said you went to church with the Bobos.
Yes,
All right. If I said April 24th, does that ring a bell?
probably.
Okay. But it was Easter Sunday.
Easter Sunday.
After church, where did you go?
We went to McKenzie Tree Service, and we started there and
What road
walked
is McKenzie Tree Service?
on 641 North.
Okay. And when you say we went, you, or was this a day where a group was going?
This was a group. I know a group from our church, but I believe it wasn't. It was more than just a group from our church, but
And were you guys going to walk 641, or did
Yes.
you have a different plan to load up on a bus and go somewhere else?
as far as I knew, we were going to search 641 North, go north on 641 North. That's as far as I went.
On four-wheelers, on walking?
Walking, elbow to elbow, walking. Mhm.
And did you start doing that?
Yes.
From McKenzie Tree Service?
From McKenzie Tree Service. Mhm.
And what, if anything, did you find?
I believe the name of the business was Fastco. We were walking the ditch beside, or out in front of that business, and at the culvert, there was a phone laying on top of the culvert.
Are you good with distances? If you're not, I'll ask someone later.
I'm not sure how far from the road we were.
I was going to ask, how far from the Bobo's house is it to McKenzie Tree Service?
As the crow flies, or
Ask the crow flies. Let's go that way.
I'm just guessing 5 miles, but
Okay.
I really don't know.
But not a great distance.
Not a great distance, no.
You said a phone was laying on a culvert?
On the top of the culvert, like it was placed there actually, just laying on the top of it.
I mean, you didn't see anyone place there,
No,
but that's just how it appeared to you.
sure. Mhm.
And what did you do and were you alone or with another person who spotted the phone at about the same time you did?
Well, there were several people there, probably 3 or 4 right beside me. I can't remember. I know one person that I could name, but other than that,
Who was there?
Danny Lomax.
And what did you and Mr. Lomax do when you spotted the phone?
We called for some of the law enforcement to come and see what we had found.
And did law enforcement come to you all there?
They did.
You said it was a driveway or two away from McKenzie Tree Service?
Yeah, I believe it was one driveway away. I'm not sure, but mhm.
Did anything stand out in your mind about the phone, like when you saw it?
Well, I had used Holly's phone just previously, and it looked like the phone that she had.
And we'll pass forward as a collective exhibit. I haven't collated it yet, but look at 2 photographs and see if that appears to be, or what that appears to be.
It appears to be the phone that I used that Holly had.
Okay. Is that the phone that you found?
Yes, yes. Hmm.
Your Honor, ask that together they be marked as the next numbered exhibit.
Let's do consecutive numbers, it'd be 73 and 74.
Can we staple them or something?
I made consecutive numbers.
Oh.
Unless there's a particular reason,
No, one of them's the front and one of them's the back. I was just.
bad, just make consecutive
Okay.
numbers.
And you can just put the first one on, please.
Okay, we're gonna run him to death. Give him just a second. Okay,
Ms. Pratt, a lot of people have the same kinds of phones and, but when you spotted that phone, you said you knew that that looked like Holly's phone.
It looked like it.
And it's, you had actually used her phone before,
I had.
okay, on one or more occasions. On one or more occasions.
Yes. We went
Yes, one time or yes?
once.
Okay,
Yes,
gotcha.
once. Right.
Though you only used her phone once, had you seen her with the phone?
Yes.
On many occasions?
Yes.
All right. That's all I have. Thank you for the picture. Now, I asked you about the test that you took that day. Did the teachers there or the instructor call off homework, or did sometimes you have homework due on the same day that you had a test?
We had a test first thing in the morning, took a break, started something new. She lectured all day. We studied that night, tested the next day. Is that
So
what
you
you're
did sometimes
asking?
have homework on the same day.
I had homework every night.
Was there a particular project that you guys had to do sometimes that involved the oversized note cards?
Yes.
Okay. And tell the jury about that.
We had drug cards of a specific class of drugs. Every so often, we would have to turn in drug cards of different drugs, and it would have contraindications, what class of drugs, I'm sorry, contraindications, classes of drugs that they were, and things
So
like
just a
that.
variety of drugs and
Yes.
about them. And how were they turned in a particular format?
Yes, we turned in a paper that had, on the front of the paper, it would say how the grading was broken down, and then we folded the paper, put the cards on the inside, clipped it together, turned it in, and that's
All right, I'm going to pass you forward.
how we got it back.
And see if you can recognize what that might be.
Yes, that's the paper that we turned in with the drug cards.
Now, whose paper does that appear to be?
That's Holly's.
Do you
Holly
recognize her
Bobo's.
writing?
Yes.
Your Honor, ask that be marked as the next number.
The exhibit 75.
Yes.
Okay, give us a second.
It- I'm going to ask you to look over your left shoulder. You indicated that you guys would turn in a grade sheet and the cards would be folded inside, is that correct?
Yes.
And were there particular rules, like you were supposed to collate them with a clip kind of a thing?
Yes. We folded the paper in half. The cards went in the paper, and they clipped it together so that they stayed together. Yes.
You don't have to just leave them off. I'm going to pass forward what was previously marked. You got your glasses. I don't have anything else, thank you.
Are you going to need the overhead?
No, Your Honor.
All right, let's bring the lights up. Turn the overhead off. Cover the end with the box. Okay, proceed with the cross-examination.
Hello, Mrs. Pratt. I'm Jennifer Thompson. Now, you remember giving a statement to an FBI agent, Art Viveros? Do you remember that?
I remember the name.
And I think you gave it to him on the same day that you found the phone.
Okay.
Because, of course, as soon as you find the phone, everybody was very interested in getting as much information as possible,
Right.
weren't they?
Right.
Okay. And so at the time then, they interviewed you about where you found it and what it was.
Mhm.
Okay. And then again, you gave another statement to a woman named Valerie Trout. I believe she came out to your house in 2013 and spoke to you and did a report. Okay. And so today you testified that when you found the phone, you remembered that it looked like Holly's phone. And you suspected that it was Holly's phone. Is that what you're saying? Yes?
It did look like the phone that I used of hers.
Okay. Can you answer out loud because the court reporter is writing down your answers?
It looked like the phone that I used of hers.
Okay. Now, previously, when you spoke with Valerie Trout, you specifically told her that when you found the phone on April 24th, it did not look like the phone that you recalled using of Holly Bobo's. Do you remember telling her that?
No.
So you can't quite remember what you
She's
told.
shaking her head no.
Okay,
No.
She said no out loud.
I didn't hear it either, but
Okay.
that's all right.
So your memory's kind of fuzzy of your conversation with Valerie Trout, is that right?
I remember her name.
Okay.
I do remember her name. I talked to so many.
So it's possible that when she came to visit you in 2013, you told her that it didn't look like the phone that you remembered using from Holly.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. She said she didn't say that.
I don't remember
think-
saying that.
She said she doesn't remember, so I'm
No.
asking her, is it possible that you did
All right.
say that?
I don't remember saying that.
Okay. Is it possible, though, that you said it? That's my question.
All right, she has responded to your question 2 or 3 times. Let's move on.
Okay. So it's clear that somewhere there's a mistake. Would you agree with me on that?
Sure.
That either you misspoke, said something, or possibly Valerie Trout wrote it down in her report incorrectly.
Could be.
And you would agree with me that 2011 was 6 years ago and a lot of time has passed since then,
That's right.
and memories fade. Would you agree with me
Right.
on that? Okay. No further questions.
Done?
Yes, sir. No further
All right,
questions.
Ms. Pratt, you can be excused. Please don't discuss your testimony with anyone. If you want to, you can come back in the courtroom or you're free to go, okay?
Thank you.
Call your next.
Adnisha Brasher.
Raise your right hand, please. Solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Be seated. State your name first and last and spell it for the court reporter.
My name is Ednesha Brasher, Ednesha, Brasher, Brasher.
Can I proceed, Your Honor?
You may.
Ms. Brasher, you're soft-spoken, and a lot of people are. I'm going to ask you to lean forward into that microphone because it's important that everyone all the way to the end hear what you have to say, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not asking for your address, but where do you live?
In Martin, Tennessee.
Okay, and how long have you lived in Martin?
About 4 years now.
I'd like to draw your attention, please, back to 2011 and ask where you lived at that time.
At that time, I was living in Memphis, Tennessee.
And did you periodically visit Decatur County and those surrounding counties?
Yes, ma'am. That's where I'm from, and I went to school there in Memphis.
In Memphis?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but I asked if you visited like Parsons and Decatur County in that area.
Yes, ma'am.
so which one are you from?
I'm sorry. Well, I'm from Parsons.
Okay, that's, gotcha. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. So you're from Parsons, so you would go back and forth to school, from school in Memphis to home.
Right.
I want to draw your attention to a specific day, May the 3rd, 2011, and ask whether sometime prior to that date, you had become aware that a young lady by the name of Holly Bobo had come up missing.
Yes, ma'am.
Right, and even though you were in school, you knew about that.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you know anybody in her family?
I knew her brother, Clint. I think he was a social worker at the nursing home I was working at prior.
And you were working at a nursing home prior to going to school, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you tell me you finished school, or you're in school now?
I am finished now.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
And what do you do for your?
I'm a social worker.
So you knew of Clint. So when you heard about Holly missing, did you make the connection between that was a coworker, sister?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now I want to draw your attention back to May the 3rd of 2011, several weeks after she was reported missing. Do you remember being home and going for a bicycle ride?
Yes, ma'am.
And who did you go for a bicycle ride with?
With my little brother.
Okay, how old was he?
He was 10 at the time.
And I guess, what street did y'all start on?
We started on Miller Street,
And where in the county is that?
Decatur County.
And is it north, south, east? Do you know?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Like,
I don't have directions.
just like, all right, so did you leave Miller Street or stay on Miller Street?
We did leave Miller Street.
And where did you go?
We went on down to Camden Road.
And as you rode along, who was in front? Was your little brother riding in front, or were you?
My little brother was in front.
Okay, but nevertheless, were y'all staying sort of close to one another?
Yes, ma'am.
Where you could talk back and forth?
Right.
Were you playing a game?
Yes, ma'am.
What game were you playing?
We were playing I Spy.
Okay. Now, I know what that is. That's I Spy something red, and then the other one guesses?
Right, yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
in this instance, it would be the flag match. All right. Do you remember when it was your brother's turn, him spying something that actually got your attention?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, tell the jury, please, what happened.
Okay, so we were just playing I Spy, and he said, I spy a Sims card. And I was like, you see a Sims card? Because they're pretty small. And he said, yeah. And so I said, okay. And so when he had picked it up, I said, well, let me see it. And so he handed it to me, and I put it in my back pocket, and we just kind of talked about how strange that was, and then we just kept riding at that point.
All right. Now, this SIM card, that's from the little small squares that go into a phone, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And he said, I spy something, did he actually get off his bike when he spied it, or were y'all riding and he spied it?
Yes, sir. Well, at that time, we were kind of going pretty slow, and we were kind of riding in the grass at that point, and so he did get off of his bike, and
You're the one that picked it up, not him?
he picked it up first and handed it to me.
You said you put it in your pocket and went your way.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you do something or remember that you had the SIM card later on that day?
Right, it was later that night.
Would you explain to the jury about that?
So later that night, I just went throughout the day, and then later that night I thought about it, and I had it in my pocket, and so I took it out, and I had put it in my phone, and then I had heard different voice messages on it, and so I went and I had told my friend what I had heard. I said, I think it's Holly's, and so I was kind of like, what do we need to do, and things like that, and so they were like, well, just call her mom. And so, of course, at that point, it was all over Facebook and things, the number that you can get in contact with someone. And so I had found her number, and so I had called her at that point.
All right. And before that, had you ever talked to Karen Bobo?
No, ma'am.
But when you called that number, a female answered and identified herself as Karen Bobo?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did you tell her what you and your brother had found?
Right, I did.
And did the two of you, I guess, come up with a plan right then of how you were going to turn over the SIM card?
Yes, ma'am. She had asked me to meet her husband at a gas station just there in town.
And if you're in Parsons, there's literally like across the street, right smack in the center of Parsons. Is that where you were?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did her husband or someone who identified himself as Dana Bobo come to the
Yes, ma'am. Her husband was there, as well as her son, Clint.
Okay. And Clint, you recognized?
Yes, ma'am.
And just for the record, if I could Danny and Clint to raise their hands, do you see these two?
Yes, ma'am.
Are those people that you met at the gas station?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you give them the SIM card?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, a lot of SIM cards probably look alike, but I have taped it back up. I'm going to hold out for you. Does that appear to be the same kind or same color, the SIM card that you turned over?
Yes, ma'am.
And you turned that over on May the 3rd, 2011. Pretty late in the evening, actually, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, ask this to be marked as the next numbered exhibit.
Any objection? All right, the exhibit 77.
And you indicated that that was found on Camden Road?
Yes, ma'am.
And assuming the jury sees a map later, is Camden Road, do you know which direction it runs, or any landmarks that you could give us about where you and your brother were?
As far as landmarks, there was a sawmill on that road, and so we were pretty
What
close.
on that road?
A sawmill. And so we were pretty close
You're
to them.
close to the sawmill on Camden Road?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Cross?
No, Your Honor.
No questions. All right, Mr. Brasher, you may be excused. Don't discuss your testimony with anyone. You can join us in the courtroom or you're free to go. Okay? Thank you. Next,
State calls Larry Stone.
Larry Stone. Everybody comfortable? It's 11. I'm going to try to go till around 12. Everybody good? All right, let's roll. Raise your right hand, please. Solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Be seated. State your name. Spell first and last for the court reporter.
Ernest Stone.
Ernest, okay.
It's ERNEST STONE.
So do you go by Larry also?
Yes,
I've been calling you Larry.
that's fine.
All right, where do you live? And we don't want your address, but just generally where do you live?
I live in Camden, Tennessee.
And what do you do?
Ginseng dig.
I'm sorry.
Wild roots and herbs.
Okay. Roots and herbs. That include ginseng?
Yes, sir.
What do you do do you look for ginseng, or where do you go to get ginseng?
Well, you go, most of the time you find ginseng on the north side of the hill, shady, ferny areas.
So ginseng likes the shade.
Yes, sir.
And do you do this? Do you call yourself a ginseng hunter, or is that what we call it? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. How long had you lived where you lived?
I've lived there since I was 5.
Okay. You familiar with Decatur County?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Do you know the Bobo family at all?
No.
But you were aware that Holly went missing?
Yeah.
In early 2011?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to take you back to September the 7th, 2014. Do you remember that day?
Yes, sir.
What were you doing that day?
I was getting ready to go dig ginseng.
Did you say you're getting ready to go where? I'm sorry.
Get ready to leave the house to go dig ginseng.
Deaton, Tennessee?
No, dig ginseng.
Okay, dig for ginseng.
I was getting ready.
I'm sorry, I understand. I'm going to, and where were you planning on going to dig for ginseng? Then?
Well, obviously it wasn't there. I was going somewhere totally different, but then I got the natural trace, got to thinking about my dad pouring the concrete for that phone tower,
Okay,
and I knew there was ginseng there at one point.
okay. So you thought that might be a good area to go find some ginseng?
Yes, sir.
On September 7th, I'm gonna show this to the defense counsel, I think it was. I'm gonna hand you a photograph. I'm gonna call you Larry if it's okay. I'm just used to calling you Larry. And just let me know if you recognize that photograph.
Yes, sir, I do.
Does that describe the area that you went to hunt or to dig ginseng at?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, if we could have that entered as the next number of exhibit.
All right, we are at 78.
Can I approach the witness, Judge, while
You
they're...
may.
This is a laser pointer. I'm going to want you to show us what you did on this photograph. That button right there is what you press. Okay?
Top button.
Yeah, the green one. And we have what is marked as Exhibit 78 on the screen. Now, Larry, just tell us a little bit about this photograph, what you recognize, and what you did that day.
That Sunday morning, the 7th, we parked.
Is this aerial?
Yes, sir.
I think this one is.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
We parked right here at this cable right here. And I got out of the truck, got my water, and got my little fanny pack, whatever you want to call it, and took off right down through here. Got down right in here, walked down this way, got right here, and I started having chest pains. So I had to turn around. I looked at my cousin and I said, I gotta go back to the truck because I forgot my nitroglycerin. So I turned and I walked back up through here, come around, and I come back out on the road here, which actually I had found a ginseng plant. So
Okay, what'd you do with that ginseng plant?
I put it in my fanny pack.
You said this was Natchez Trace
Where is this?
area?
This is actually part of Decatur County.
Okay.
And you were going, when you first went there, what direction were you going? Was it north or was it west?
I was headed, actually I was headed north when I got to the top of this road,
Okay,
kind of northeast, I'd say.
okay.
And then I turned and started walking this way. I done found that ginseng plant, so I decided to go back this way. My chest had done eased up because I got up on that flat ground where I wasn't being so strenuously. So I'd actually thought, just take a minute, rest, and then walk up a little further. So I walked up a little further, found another ginseng plant. And then I go on up, and I get right about in here. I see another ginseng plant, but then something caught my eye.
Okay.
And, you know, bucket, I got coon dogs, and I use buckets for water buckets.
So you saw a bucket?
Yeah. So I walk over to the bucket. I picked it up, and then a feeling come over me. Just something just told me, turn around. And I'm sitting there thinking the whole time in my head, why is a 3-gallon bucket sitting here upside down in the woods? So I went with my instinct. When the feeling hit me, said turn around, and then that's when I found what I found.
What'd you find?
Holly's remains.
Well, what specifically did you find? Is it,
The skull.
okay. And you recognize that quickly to be a human skull?
Yes, sir.
What did you do after that?
I told my cousin, I said, please tell me, you know, he was down the holler for me. So that's when I started yelling for him. And he was probably a good 300 yards away because it took me like 3 or 4 tries to get him.
Is he still up here by the cell tower?
He is, by this time, I'm here, And he's right here at the center of the holler.
Okay.
And there's an old broke over log in this holler right in here, and he's about from right in there. And I'm here.
And he's doing the same thing you were doing?
Yes, sir.
Looking for ginseng? Okay.
Yes, sir. And then finally, I guess it was about the third try, because at first I couldn't get nothing out of my mouth. I was so stunned. And by that time, the old ticker done started bothering me again at that point. So I finally got his name out of my mouth. I said, "Timmy, get up here now." And he's like, "What?" And I said, "I found remains." And he said, "No, you didn't. You're lying." As he's picking across the log at me up there. And I said, "Get up here now. I'm being serious now. Get up here." Because we joke around a lot in the woods. But, this day, it was not a joking day, So finally, he seen me. I just started bawling. Because I thought, well, he's not going to come. And so finally, he come up there, and I looked at him. I said, "Please tell me that's one of the things they use in school. It's not real." And he kind of looked at it, and he said, "It's real." And then that's when I looked at him. I said, "You know who this could be, right?" And he looked back at me. He said, "Who do you think it is?" And then that's
Your Honor, I'm going to jump to the hearsay.
Okay. Don't tell us what others.
All right,
Okay.
we've got in some conversations. He can say what he said. He can't say what his fellow hunter was saying to him.
So that's when I said, "I think this is Ollie." And
But you didn't know that, obviously.
I didn't know it at that point.
At that point, the only thing you saw was the skull,
That's
right?
it. That's all I seen.
You didn't see any other remains or anything in that area? Is that correct?
Not at that time.
Did you call the authorities?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Tell us about that.
I was so tore up and emotional. I told him that who I thought I'd found. And I just broke down. I couldn't talk or nothing. So I handed my phone to my cousin. And I was telling him what to say and where we was, because he didn't even know really. And finally, when I told him that, when they said somebody was on the way, to have him out by the road waiting for them to get there so they'd know where we was at. But
So your cousin went out to the roadway?
he went out to the roadway.
Okay. And did you stay back?
I sat down by the same tree I sat down beside is where I sat until they got back down there to me.
Okay. Do you remember who arrived, or?
It was the Benton County Sheriff's Department,
Okay.
and then Decatur County Sheriff's Department. The sheriff himself come.
At some point, did some TBI special agents arrive as well?
Yes, there was Joe Walker and Agent Booth, I think, showed up.
Okay. Brent Booth.
Yeah, Brent Booth, sorry.
And you did what? Did you show them what you'd found and where it was?
Yeah.
At that point, did they take over the situation, the scene?
Yes, they did.
Okay. Did you give a sort of a formal statement to them, tell them?
Yes, sir.
And they took it down?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This area that we're looking at right here, the area where you found those remains, that's Decatur County, Tennessee?
It's the little gnome that goes back. If it'd been any further back, it'd been in Benton County, but it wasn't. It was Decatur County.
Thank you, Mr. Stone. No further questions.
All right, cross-examination.
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, you can step down, Mr. Stone. Don't discuss your testimony with anyone. You can either come back in the courtroom or you may be excused, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Call your next.
I think there's Laura Hodge.
There were a couple of witnesses excused during the last testimony that might want to come back in. Did you tell me?
I think so, Judge.
Okay, we're all right? Okay, I was going to tell them to be admitted. Raise your right hand. Solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Be seated, state your name and spell first and last for the court reporter.
Laura Hodge, Laurahodge.
Thank you. You can proceed.
Thank you. All right, you've already stated your name. Where do you work, Ms. Hodge?
I am a special agent forensic scientist for the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, and I work in the Nashville Crime Laboratory.
How long have you worked at the TBI?
It'll be 25 years, December 1st.
Are you still part of the violent crime response team?
I am in a limited capacity. This year, I was placed on an alternate list where I will assist a violent crime response team as an alternate.
Back in, I'll take you back to September, early September 2014, around the 7th, 8th, and 9th, and 10th. What was your assignment with TBI back then?
I was a team leader of a violent crime response team.
Okay. And what does, if you didn't already say it, what does the violent crime response team do specifically?
A violent crime response team is made up of individuals throughout the laboratory units, and we go and assist local law enforcement agencies in the processing of crime scenes. In this particular case, in 2014, we assisted the UT Anthropology Department in the search for human remains.
Do you remember when you got the call? Was it September the 7th, or do you remember specifically when it was?
I received the first call on September the 8th.
September the 8th.
Yes, sir.
When you get that call, do you kind of mobilize your team, or what?
Yes, I received a notification from the Crime Lab Regional Supervisor, Mike Little, at the time, and then I began contacting my team members to inform them of what we would be doing.
What time did you get out there?
We did not go until the next day, September the 9th.
September the 9th.
Yes, sir.
Do you remember about when it was we got out there?
It was approximately 8 o'clock.
I'm going to put, what is it?
What year?
2014.
14, okay.
I'm going to hand you a couple of photographs. Special Agent Hodge. And actually, if you recognize those.
Yes, this would be the area in Decatur County that we went to search.
Okay.
An aerial view of it.
Okay. Now I put, I think there's a pointer or a laser
Yes.
pointer up there somewhere. This is what's up here now has previously been marked as Exhibit 78. If you could kind of give us an idea of what we're looking at here. I see a road down there. What road is that?
This is actually the interstate, and this is an access road that runs parallel with the interstate.
Okay. That's I-40?
Yes, sir.
All right. Which way is that truck going?
He is going west.
All right. Can you point to us generally where this scene was, as you recall it to?
Actually, I don't think you can see in this photograph because this is the cell tower where the staging area was. And where we actually were processing the area was farther back this way, probably 200 to 250 yards.
A couple hundred yards. Okay. Now, those other two photographs, you recognize those also as aerial photographs of the same scene?
Yes, sir. I can see the cell tower and then the sawmills on either side of the cell tower.
Okay. Now, if we could have those marked as the next number of exhibits, I think it's 79
All right, how many?
and 82.
79 and 80.
Well, they're marking them. What's going on as far as your team's arriving? What's happening?
As we begin to arrive, we're taken back to the area where when we got there, there was an area that was initially had already been marked off with some crime scene tape. And this was an area that we were told that skull and other bones had been recovered. Those items had been removed prior to our arrival. And then as the UT Anthropology individuals got there, they briefed us on what we were looking for and how we would go about it.
we could put number 79 up there. And this is just to give us a little bit more perspective of the area we're looking at. Do you recognize that? It's a little further up and farther away, I think.
Yes, I do. Again, there's the cell tower.
Okay.
This is partially one of the sawmills that
Okay.
you can see. The other one is back over in this area.
I think that if we could put the number 80 up, that may give us, we could zoom out on that a little bit. Can you almost see the other sawmill if we could push that up just a little bit? So the other sawmills would be down where that post is probably, is that?
Yes, down in this area.
Okay.
The area where the cell tower is was in between the two sawmills.
You indicated that you're out there with the Tennessee Forensic Anthropology Group. There's other TBI agents out there.
Yes.
What kind of searches are you doing?
We're doing what is called a line search, where individuals, we would stand shoulder to shoulder in a line. And we would move one step at a time in unison and check an area in front of us, moving leaves and twigs and rocks and anything. And then we would continue that process, moving one step at a time in unison, doing that line search.
Okay. Were there people out there with metal detectors?
Yes, sir.
Dogs?
The second day, dog handlers were out there on September the 10th, 2014.
Did you, when you initially got there, you got there, I guess, a little later. Were there already other agents out there finding things?
Yes, sir. There were already other TBI agents in the area.
Okay. And they had done some taping off, laid some placards and things like that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to hand you I've already shown these to defense. I'm going to hand you 12, most of the photos and one document on the top. If you could just take a look at those in order and let us know if you recognize those and if they depict the scene the way it was that day.
Yes, sir. I do recognize these.
Thank you. And there are photographs of the scene
Yes, sir.
the way it was that day?
Yes, sir.
All right, if I could have those back and also that
Oh.
one. Yonder, if we could have these marked as the next 12 numbered exhibits. We're 81.
81 through 92, I think, but the math always gets me because you don't put the count first. Better get them marked and then we'll.
Agent Hodge, we're going to put first number 81.
What is it, 81 through?
92.
Okay.
We went to 92, and this one's kind of tough to get all on there, but tell us what we're looking at here.
This would be a rough sketch drawing that I did after we returned from the 2 days out in the woods, and just laying out in an aerial view the marker numbers and what each of those marker numbers depicted.
Okay. Now, if you could push that up a little bit, so it's kind of the bottom over there. A little further. This area, the area with the two lines that kind of go out, what is that?
This area here?
The entire area?
Okay. This area that is lined off is a ditch where two hills came together. This was a hill that came down, and this was a hill that came down, and the ditch met in the middle of those two hills. And the ditch is running, you can see downward. This is the top of the ditch, this is the bottom part of the ditch, and then this is a flattened out area that at the bottom of the ditch.
And is this typically a dry ditch, or is this a heavy water runoff type of a ditch when it rains heavily?
It appears that water would run heavily through that ditch because of how the two hills come together.
Okay. Now the items on what I would call, well, what's the significance of the colors and the numbers?
I have color-coded these with pink being human remains, yellow being personal effects, and the blue would be cartridge cases.
Now, to the left of what you described as the ditch, what direction is that? To the left of the ditch right there?
This area?
The five yellow numbers
Okay.
there, right there. Yeah.
I was calling that a southwesterly direction. North is in this direction.
Is that sort of a bank of the ditch, a way of describing that?
This area here?
Right.
Yes, it is.
And I see you have out, looks like six items there.
Yes.
They're all in yellow,
Yes, sir.
which would indicate that they are personal effects of some kind that you found on that ditch.
That is
Okay.
correct. Yes, sir, on the bank.
I'm going to put first number 82 up on the screen. And if you could describe to the jury what we're looking at here.
Marker 1 and 2 that can clearly be seen in this photograph is marking what is an inhaler and a cloth strap.
Okay. Now those flags, who puts the flags there? Is that part of the team when something's found?
Yes, in a wooded area like this, it's easy, or in a large area also, it's easy to place flags so that they can be easily seen, so that we can place markers next to the item in order for us to identify them.
So one person might see something they think is relevant and they'll put a flag there.
That's correct.
Then you come back later to actually get an idea of what it is.
That's correct.
All right. We can have the next number of the exhibit, which is 82, I think. 83. This is 83, Agent Hodgins. Tell us what we're looking at here.
This is a close-up of marker 1, which is the inhaler.
I'm going to pass forward the bag. While that photograph's up there, if you could take a look at that bag and let us know if that's the inhaler we're looking at on the photograph.
Yes, sir, it is.
If we could have that marked as the next
Exhibit
number.
93.
93. Yeah, I'm looking publish that. Maybe have Agent Hodge show this to the jury.
Okay. You can step down.
Need your sunglasses for that. Thank you. Now we're going to put Exhibit 84 on the overhead. Take a look at that. Raise your eyes and tell us what we're looking at there.
This is item marker number 2, which is the cloth strap.
Okay, do you know what that strap might go to?
I believe it belonged to the purse that was found.
Okay. I'm not going to hand you a bag. You can take a look at that bag. Let us know what that is.
Do you want me to open it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And inside is the
Hold on
cloth
just a
strap.
second. We'll get it, is that the strap that we're looking at in the photograph?
Yes, sir, it is.
Yeah, if we could have that, admitted, or the next number is 94. If you could do that back. Yeah, if we could publish this item.
Okay.
While that photograph is still on the screen, if you could show that to the jury and let us know what we're looking at.
This is marker number 2, the cloth strap.
Now we're going to put what has been marked as Exhibit 85 on the overhead. And let us know what we're looking at here.
That would be a small purse.
Now, we're still on what we're calling sort of the west bank of this ditch
Yes, sir.
where all these items are found. So all these items are still personal items.
Yes, sir. They were in that area on the hillside of the ditch.
Could you, another bag, defense counsel. You could go ahead and open that bag and
Okay.
let us know if you recognize that. I have some scissors for you.
Oh, that would be great.
Be careful.
Thank you. Yes, this is the item we see in the picture, marker number 3.
Okay. Now, if we could have that marked as the next number.
And the contents are what?
We have pictures of the contents. I believe mostly it was markers and ink pens.
But this was purse.
This was a small purse, I believe was inside the
That's
larger
small.
purse. Yes, sir, small purse.
All right, that'd be Exhibit 95.
Thank you, Hodges. If we could publish that to the jury, Judge.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. And to follow up on the judge's question, there are items inside of that purse?
Yes, sir.
What's inside?
Yes, sir. There are pencils, ink pens, and highlighters inside the purse.
Okay. Is that school items and things of that nature?
Yes, sir, they appear to be.
Okay. We're going to put the next number exhibit on the overhead. This is 86. And this, what are we looking at in that photograph?
These are the items that were inside this small purse. So in addition to ink pens, markers, and pencils, there was a thumb drive.
Now, generally, when you're on this scene and you find something like this, a purse or something that may contain other items, did you open them up and photograph them right there on the scene?
We did just a general photograph like this, but yes, we will open things that we discover, such as this purse, small purse, and just see what's inside the contents. We may not pull everything out and lay it out to photograph it, but we just get a general idea of what's in there and photograph it.
We're going to put the next numbered exhibits, 87 on the overhead. Do you recognize that?
Yes, that is the purse.
Does it look like that strap we looked at earlier may go to this purse?
Yes, sir, I believe it does.
I'm going to show you what has previously been marked as exhibits. It's 31.
Oh, that's already been found.
Yes, sir. I was wanting to make sure I got the right exhibit number for the record. It's 31. I'll just go ahead and hold. Well, if you can go ahead and do it.
31 came in through witness Karen Bobo.
Is that item you're holding in your hands what we see in the photograph here and you found on the west bank of the ditch?
Yes, sir. This is what is in the photograph marked as marker number 4.
Okay, if you could show that item to the members of the jury. So if we could, the next one, 88. We're putting what has been marked as Exhibit 88 on the overhead. What is that?
That's another picture of item marker number 4, the purse, as we were beginning to open it up and examine the contents.
Does that appear to be an item that has been sitting in the dirt near a ditch for some time?
Yes, sir. Actually, it was covered with leaves. There was only a small portion of the purse sticking out of the ground, so we had to remove leaves and twigs in order to pull this purse up to the surface.
Okay. Were there contents in that purse or around that purse as well?
Yes, sir, there were.
Okay. We're going to put 89. Exhibit 89 on the overhead, and is that the contents
Yes, sir.
in this part? A couple of the things have already been marked as exhibits. And I'm going to hand you what has been previously marked as Exhibit 33. If you could take that out and take a look at it. Does that look like, and I'm looking to the, it's a little blurry, the photograph. Can you focus a little bit there? A little bit there. There's a set of keys over there on the right side.
Yes, sir. Here's the keys.
Okay. Is this Exhibit 33, those, the keys that we're seeing there?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay. You can hold those for just a second. I'm going to hand you another item that has already been marked. This is exhibit number 32. If you could take a look at that for us and let us know what that is.
This item is also in this picture, and it is the camera
The camera, okay.
right here.
If you could show those to the jury, I don't know that they got a good look at them when they were initially entered into evidence. And that keychain, is there a letter on the keychain?
Yes, sir, there is.
What letter is that?
It's an H.
Hand you another bag that has not been previously marked. I'll take those two back. You can tell us what that is.
This is a tube of lipstick.
Tube of lipstick, is that shown in the photograph above?
No, sir, this was actually found in the smaller purse, which was marker number 3 that I showed earlier.
Okay. If we could have that marked as the next number too.
We are at 96.
So the tube of lipstick came from the multicolored smaller purse.
Yes, sir, marker number 3.
If you could show that to the jury as well. I'm going to hand you 2 other bags. I think I may be back on track here now. If you could tell us what those 2 bags are.
The first item is lipstick that is shown here in the picture. The second item is the compact mirror that is shown in this picture here.
And those are the items that are found in that purple purse that we've looked at and seen photographs of?
Yes, these were found in the purse that was marked as marker number 4.
All on the left or west side of that gift?
Yes, sir.
We could have those marked as the next 2 numbered exhibits, Your Honor.
97 and 98.
So lipstick would be number
Right,
97.
the compact is 98. We already had a tube of lipstick is 96. This is the second one.
Keep with our routine and show those items to the jury. I may have already asked you this, I think I did, but these items, were they still in that purse, or have they spilled out of it, or?
The items that you see in this picture were still contained in the purse.
Okay. Show that to the jury.
Okay.
Now we have what has been marked as Exhibit 2 on the overhead. I'm sorry, 92 on the overhead. If you can tell us what we're looking at there, it's kind of hard to see.
Right here is a blister pack of gum.
Okay. Where was that? Was that in the same area?
This was in the area where the purse and the chapstick that I just showed you was located. It was all on the ground. This item, again, was not in the purse, either the small or the big one. It was on the ground.
Okay, but some agents found that in this general area where these other personal items were?
Yes.
Okay. Go back now to one of the very first exhibits. That is number 81. And just sort of reorient us a little bit here. If you could go ahead. Now, all these items that we've been looking at are to my left, right here, okay? Those are all personal effects?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What I want to do next is I want you to describe for the jury all of those items that you found within that ditch, okay? And I'm going to hand you a stack of photographs. And the defense counsel's already seen these. Your Honor, it says 28 photographs. If you can look through those, let us know if they depict that ditch as it was during those days you guys searched it and found all these items.
Yes, I recognize all of these pictures.
And they are the items that we're looking at that would be in this ditch. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
You know, we could have these marked as exhibits. I believe it would be 100 through 127. And while they're doing that,
Okay.
I'm going to ask you just a question.
Let's let her mark.
Okay. Real scissors.
Thank you.
For later. Start with, well, first I want to ask you one more question. Sorry. Now, we're looking at this chart that shows this ditch. Downhill, we can see that it's going, I guess, to the north. Is that right?
Yes, this is downhill.
Now, in this ditch, according to the legend, there are some yellow marked numbers. There are also some, it looks like pink or some purple numbers.
Yes.
And what do those indicate?
Again, the pink, no, highlighted numbers are human remains, and the yellow are personal effects.
All right. If we could have exhibit number 100 on the overhead. Does this, Agent Hodge, give us a bit of an overview of the area?
Yes, sir, it does.
Okay. If you could describe what we're looking at.
This is a photograph looking back up the hill. This is the hill coming down and another hill coming down, and you have the ditch that met in between the two hills.
Okay. And all the things that we're getting ready to look at were found within that ditch flowing.
Yes, within this area of the ditch.
Okay. We could have 101 put on the overhead. That's kind of tough to see. But if you could describe for the jury what we're looking at here.
Marker number 34 is a black hair tie, and It can faintly be seen where I'm circling in this area.
Okay. Now, that would be, I don't know if I'm describing this properly or not, but that would be at sort of at the top of the ditch? The first thing you found at the top of the ditch?
Yes, on the diagram we had up earlier, that was at the top of the ditch, and other things were down below
Okay,
it.
so the subsequent things are.
Are we talking south going north?
We'll put the overhead back up.
Yes, please. Yes, Your Honor, we're
Okay,
talking
that's
this
what I-
direction. Yes, sir.
Getting oriented.
Yes, sir.
All right.
South to north, that's correct.
I'm going to pass forward. Adam, if you could tell us, if you recognize what that is.
Yes, I do recognize it.
Okay. Yeah, if we could have that marked as, I guess it would be 128.
Right, please.
Uh,
Black hairband?
Yes, sir, Your Honor. This is the black hair tie that is shown in this picture as item number 34.
All right, thank you. Be 128.
If you could maybe hold this for a second up there,
Okay.
and we'll publish a couple things at the same time.
Okay.
We could have, is it 102? Have 102 up there. That's kind of difficult to see as well, but if you could describe what we're looking at there.
Marker number 35 is a piece of pink fabric that I am circling in this area here.
And then the next number exhibit, 103. Can you see what that is? It's got very dark here.
Yes, sir. Marker 36, the area I am circling is a ring.
Okay. I'm going to hand you first a bag. Take a look at that and let us know what that is.
This item is the pink fabric that was in the previous picture.
Pink stripe. Does that look like it could be the remnants of something? A pink shirt, something like that?
It appears it could be, yes.
Okay. Gunnar, if we could have that marked as the next number.
129.
Agent Hodge, if you could show those two items, I believe it's 128 and 129, probably those here.
The lady wants to speak to the officer just a second, so you can go ahead and be present.
Agent Hodge, this is the hair tie?
This
or
is the
scrunchie?
hair tie. This is the pink fabric.
photograph is 105. 103. Very dark again, but can you describe what we're looking at here?
Marker 36 is a ring that I am circling.
And the next photograph is 104. Is that a better photograph?
Yes, sir, that's a close-up of the ring from the previous photograph.
And we're still kind of the top of the ditch or the south side of the ditch, is that right?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to hand you what has previously been marked as Exhibit 14. We can take a look at that and let us know if that's the ring that you're looking at in the photograph.
Yes, sir, this is the ring that is in the photograph. That is marker number 36.
Could, if you could publish that ring to the jury.
Move in evidence.
It's already.
Exhibit 14.
Oh, okay.
Continue through your-
That's the one I said we could make a photo of.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Scott.
I'm going to look at what's been marked as Exhibit 105.
Let's, I can tell where we are, and this is gonna be a while yet. If we do a lot of progression of what you've been doing, they've got lunch that has been brought in, so just make a mental note of where you are. Please, no discussion of your testimony, okay?
Yes, sir,
And
Your
we'll
Honor.
continue right after lunch this time. So we'll take 1 hour for lunch. Your lunch is waiting for you upstairs, follow the admonition.